It's electric too?
Ooh,
Oh, no.
look at that.
Okay, good. The batteries come with it. So how do you...
It's the stone right there.
You put it like on the, I think the side right here.
And how often do you sharpen instruments?
It depends on which instrument you're using. You can use this to
So
test
this rep
it.
is going to talk about it? Oh, that's neat.
You can use this to, so you'll flick it and you want to hear that
Clink, clink, clink.
clink, that noise, that sharp noise.
Okay.
This is nice because I didn't have this at my dental office. This is nice.
I'm so hungry.
I know.
My stomach touching my booty.
Oh, Lord.
Huh?
It's 8:05.
Yeah, where's everybody?
But there's another series.
We're missing some folks. Let me call Niecy and see how she is.
You want to sharpen your nails real quick? Let me do your nails.
Make me do your nails.
$5 nail.
$5.
You know Jill?
No gel, crypto
Jill
gel.
younger.
She said crypto gel. She killed me.
You know Jill?
No gel, $5, honey.
I think I put the gel for you.
They always trying to get me to put gel on my feet. Why?
You know what made me mad when I go get my eyebrows arched and they be like, "You want your stash too?" I'm like,
That makes me so
how you gonna
mad.
ask me, do I want my stash done? Get out, Mike.
Can't nobody see my stash but you.
Look at the fighting that lady up in there.
Ooh, this is so stunning.
There's so many things to use.
Oh yeah, ceramic stone.
Oh,
Ooh, good. They were testing on. See, these are the handles that she doesn't want us to be using.
because it's so
It's
small.
so small. I know my hand. Cramp.
Let me hear.
Oh, did you put it in right?
I thought I did.
No, it gotta be opposite.
It looked like they was the same when I looked in there. I didn't see that part at first.
Yeah, you're about to get mad.
You didn't think that video was funny that I sent you?
Which one? I didn't think it was funny. I said, what you trying to say? Because her name was Jessica. Yeah, you did.
I didn't even hear her say
Thank God you
Oh, yeah.
didn't put your hand there when you
I know it.
you would have had the EMS here immediately.
It don't sound like it's like it need a warm up before it really started going. Oh, do you just put it right there? Oh,
Just sit it in there now.
Your little brown look at that.
that's exciting. Hey, Lisa.
Hey.
Look at. I'm so happy.
I practiced in Birmingham for 27 years. I'm also a certified lab technician, which I did that for a year, decided really quickly that I like interacting with my patients and seeing the benefits of what I actually do more readily. So that's a great background to have, and we're gonna talk about that more in just a little later of how that has actually come into play in my hygiene career. I put this slide up here because this is what we used to look like, minus the goggles, patients a few weeks ago. Big difference with what's going on right now in the world. So, and also, I said it to some of you, think you guys have so much energy for 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm very impressed. Y'all are ready to rock and roll. I can skip through some of this stuff. So today, what we're gonna talk about, we're gonna go over just the basics of ultrasonic scaling, why it's okay to use it, how to position it with your patients. And some of this may be a little bit advanced, but I think it's gonna be a great foundation for you guys to hear all facets of it. But the ergonomic benefits, overcoming sensitivity if your patients have sensitive root surfaces, insights for replacing your inserts, how to know how to measure them, when to do that, using ultrasonics on implant and implant supported restorations, and then CDC aerosol management and respiratory safeguards. That's a huge one right now, and Fortis just got you guys the PureVac HVE system, which we'll talk about that at the very end, which is like having an assistant for hygienists. It is quite an amazing product. So how it works in our state, the CDC makes recommendations, and it is up to the state board in which you have your license to promulgate or make that required. So whatever CDC states in the state of Alabama, we are supposed to be familiar with that, and we are supposed to implement that as hygienists in our everyday workflow. There's a big, people ask me that all the time, is it a recommendation? CDC does recommend things, but your state board, and they are the deciding factor. So whatever is the most stringent law, the state board in which you have your license supersedes all of that. So whatever your state board says, that's what we have to abide by. And that's the Alabama Dental Practice Act that states that. How do we navigate all this information? Clinicians right now in Alabama, we've been bombarded with the ADA toolkit, CDC guidelines. I mean, everybody under the sun has been emailing us different information and guidelines and protocol suggestions for what we should do to practice hygiene safely. How do we navigate all of this? Oh, there's a little bit of delay. These are the main entities that dictate what we do in dentistry. The Food and Drug Administration, if we order our products from a Henry Schein, a Patterson, Atlanta Dental, an authorized dealer, or a vetted source, we do not have to worry about the validity or the quality that comes from our product. That is intact. We don't have to worry about that. But every product and piece of equipment that we use has to be FDA approved and EPA registered. This is why we can't make our own wipes in a Tupperware dish when we're wiping down the operatory, because right now there's a shortage of isopropyl alcohol, and a lot of offices think they can do that. You can't. There's very strict controls in place. Dilution, there's research and science behind it, and we have to have a material safety data sheet associated with each product to state if there's an accident with it, how we respond to that accordingly and safely. So Food and Drug Administration and EPA, that's how those kind of come into play with what we do. But for practical purposes, OSAP, the organization in the middle, that if you guys are not a member of this, at some point in your career, I would recommend becoming. I went to their boot camp in Chicago last February, and it was amazing. But they're a group of clinicians that work with the CDC to set forth the rules and guidelines that we have to abide by as clinicians. I think that's cool because they're clinicians, right? They get it. They understand that we have a time crunch, that we have 45 to 50 minutes to see a patient and turn our room over and get it ready for the next patient. So they understand all of those facets. They're not just a bunch of scientists or laboratory guys and that are asking us to do things that are really not practical. The CDC, unless you've been living off the grid for the past 6 months, everyone knows who the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and they are on our side, and they're trying to help us understand what we need to do to make it safe for us and for our patients. OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, when people hear OSHA, OSHA can do random exams and checkups on offices in which you work. They can just come in there, they do not have to have an appointment, and they can start looking around to make sure that we are following those protocols. And the reason that they do that, they're not the bad guys or the police, they're trying to make sure that our employers and us as clinicians are doing what we need to do to make it safe for us. So and they also regulate things like if there is an incident, who you report it to and things like that. But I know this is not an infection prevention lunch, but or breakfast, but those are the main sources. If you have any questions, these organizations are legit. You can listen to what they say. Anything else, I would probably always resort back to this for a safe answer. Are we allowed to use ultrasonic scalers in the climate of COVID-19 in Alabama? And I know you guys are still in school, but yes, we can. The state board they banned them during the shutdown when all the offices were closed because it produced aerosols and there was still a lot of research being conducted. But what they have found that if we implement the high volume evacuation, the high volume section, while we're using our ultrasonics or any aerosol producing procedure, then we are safe to do that. So it is legal and we are allowed to do it with the caveat that we use the HVE.
Said that. Yeah, y'all can play around. Take a look at those. Okay.
If I don't, I will get you some.
So, do they come in like all of this, or do you have to order them special?
You order them separately,
Oh,
like
okay.
on that little fold out. You can just get which particular one.
And do students get discounts?
They do.
Oh.
They absolutely do.
Nice. So where does the water come out? Oh, right there?
That
That was
little
water.
tiny hole. Okay, so this is the PureVeg HPE system kit that I was telling you guys, and it's been attached to the conventional HPE line, just like this guy right here. And the reason this is easier for us to use is the weight difference is unbelievable. This is way more flexible, but it's still attached to the HPE. The option is to put just the conventional in there. So, whoops, I'm taking it apart. So when you guys are done at the end of the day, you can run suction line cleaner through this, and that's what's indicated. This component goes in the ultrasonic and is bagged as normal. If there's lipstick or anything, then you just want to clean that off with soap and water. Hopefully the ultrasonic will remove that. But I don't go into specific positioning, because we're all going to do it our different ways. Oh, did it come off? So you want to hold it, and when you guys start your Profi partners, when you're using the air water syringe or even your paste polishing as an aerosol producing, you can use this to retract in an area of immediate evacuation, just like an assistant would hold a high volume evacuation when assisting a doctor. You want to just keep it right there. That little mirror portion, the blue dot, goes towards the cheek, and you just slide it around as you're going. It's going to be a little awkward, and again, this is not the way that it's shaped. It is physically impossible to dab in the retromolar pad area where we dab readily with our saliva ejector for where the saliva pulls in the hinge of the jaw. So we're to keep this, and my hygienist used this on me 2 months ago when I got my teeth cleaned, and she's so savvy with it, I didn't even know she had it in my mouth. I thought it was an exam mirror. So you will become more efficient as you use it, and it pivots in 2 different points. But you just hold it like that when you're going around because you're focusing on this end. And then it comes with 3 of those guys. It also has these little portals. Like, another benefit when we're using a conventional high volume and we suck up a cheek and tongue, it's pretty traumatic to the patient because it takes a lot of force to remove that. So this has these little portlets. So if that happens, you can roll it off really easily. Just roll it off to the side and it doesn't.
Does it make that crazy noise?
Yeah, like the clicking.
You want to use them?
That's what scares me.
Well, I was just gonna.
Okay, just show them. That's fine.
So that is that. Our lovely mannequin.
Is that thing magnetic to that?
It is.
Okay.
And I thought of something else. So just what I do is lay the saliva ejector on my patient's chest, or I'll let them hold it depending on, and let them suction for themselves, or I just reach down there and grab it. Either way. So that is that.
But during an evaluation, your patient cannot hold it, just letting you all know.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, no, just, they can do it ordinarily, but just not during an eval.
Right. And as far as maintenance, I'm trying to find the water line. So on any Cavitron unit, ultrasonic, there is a water filter on the blue water line. That needs to be changed. Look at it monthly. If you see debris or anything in there, you want to disconnect it from the main water source at the chair there before you disconnect it. And then you just undo it with your fingers and replace it. It will only go on one way. You don't need any tools, and it's not hard to do. And then you finger tight the new one. When you get out in the field, you may see there's some larger ones. The older version are about the size of a quarter, but this is the new version. They're exactly the same and they both fit. But you want to disconnect it from the main water source so you don't flood the operatory. And I did that in Memphis as well.
I forget. I see it now.
think we still have both of those. We have the old
And they're perfectly fine, interchangeable.
Okay.
So if you guys are using the combo unit, which is the ProfiJet and the Cavitron in one, the powder bowl, you want to remove the powder from this bowl at the end of every day. Just be very careful when you guys pull these out, because these little tubes, that's the max. You don't want to snatch it. And then when it's decompressed and the power is off, there's a little patient treatment cup or a little disc. Will you hand me one of those purple cups? Thank you. You just want to flip it upside down and tap it until you get the majority of the Profi powder out. And then, only then, after all the powder is removed, we're going to turn the power back on, and it's going to purge the airline and clear it and keep it from getting clogged. These are the most expensive units available, and the number one mistake that I see is hygienists don't remove the powder at the end of every day. You don't have to dispose of it. You can still put the powder back in there. And then just carefully tuck those back in.
Why do we remove it?
Because it will clog up the airline. You want to make sure that the powder's removed, and then you turn it back on and the compressor's not on. But normally a little puff of air will come out and it'll keep the airline clean so it won't get clogged. Because when they stop working and have to go in for repair, it's because there's a clog down under the powder bowl because the powder's been allowed to sit in there for months and months and months.
What's the powder section and put over it, because the powder sometimes ends up with it,
Yep.
and then that'll trap it.
That's a good idea, but you never want to put that high volume all the way down over that center tube, because that thing is contaminated on the inside. So you want to just hold it back here when you turn that on so it doesn't spew all over. And you will, yes ma'am?
I was just gonna ask what the powder's for. Like,
That is air polishing.
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's for the air polishing.
Gotcha.
But if you forget to remove the powder from the bowl and you hit that power button to purge it, it's gonna look like it snowed in your operatory, and it'll take you about 20 minutes to clean up. I've done that before as well.
So after you dump the powder out and you turn it back on to get that little puff of air, you can put it back in.
Nope, you leave it out until the next morning.
Next day.
And I just usually put my lid upside down so that if there's any insects or whatever might be in the air in the office throughout the night, nothing lands inside your bowl.
I'm gonna have a beach. I'm gonna forget the water and I'm gonna forget the powder.
And then you could just put that same powder back in. Most of them come with a little plastic jar with a lid so you can put the powder in so you won't spill it.
Okay.
But a patient cup works perfectly.
What's the powder made out of? Sorry, I'm asking about that.
What is it?
Air
The
polish.
powder?
Yeah,
It's
what is
made
it?
out of baking soda.
Oh,
Calcium carbonate.
Different times, so we have the time that's the neutral too.
Okay, so you'll have the aluminum trioxide. Yeah, there's
So if you have a patient with high
multiple.
blood pressure,
Yeah, you don't want to use the sodium bicarbonate because that has a lot of sodium in
how
it.
do you know what's already in there? We're gonna have to empty it out every time. Yeah, y'all supposed to, yes.
well, they did it.
So look at your air water
That's
filter.
when we can do an eval.
Oh, okay. No, it's okay.
That one's one of the new. And as far as wiping them down, you want to make sure when you're cleaning the surface, sometimes it will drift over into this short mode. So when you're wiping it down, you just want to make sure that you don't change the knob. So this is the sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda, and this is the aluminum trihydroxide. If someone has high blood pressure, hypertension, you want to use the blue cap.
For the most part, you use the sodium bicarbonate.
Okay.
But it's not a harmful thing to use the
No.
other one if you needed
Yeah,
to use it and you didn't have
and
one.
sometimes it's preference. I mean, they're different consistencies and different flavors like this. They're definitely different, and I would just have someone use it on yourself, and then you can kind of know what the experience is like.
Practice on each other.
Sure. So check your waterline filter, because the number 1 and 2 things when these come in, there's minerals in the water supply that filter keeps them from getting into the unit, and it will make them last longer. And then make sure you guys remove that powder and the Sterimate. That is to be autoclaved in between every patient, just like your insert. That's where your lavage control is when you guys get to that point, right there in the blue knob. But all of these components are intended to be high level disinfected. So you can put your wipe on there and wipe those down adequately. And I think that is about it for maintenance on this unit. Where is the other one, the 300?
The new one.
One over here. Just one in the circle.
See, y'all have those shelves that I love.
Guys, this is what the stereo looks like.
What is
You
it?
want me to lower this for you?
Yes, that'd be great.
Just tell me when to stop.
Go all the way down. So they can see.
It's a what now?
A stereo mate.
Yeah, that's
Oh, okay.
So that was the combo unit. That's the Cavitron and air polishing unit in one. This is the new digital Cavitron 300, and it's touchscreen. And when you guys are wiping it down, there's a lock button at the bottom. You just press and hold that, and so you can wipe it down, and it won't change any of the settings. And then you do the same. You unlock it, and then you just do it like so. But the same wipes that you guys to disinfect everything else are not going to harm this.
Okay.
So you can use it all on there just like that. Normal. It has a water filter also, and it's just at the same place. And you change it out the exact same way. This one, when the foot pedal needs to be recharged, it has a battery meter right here, and you charge it with this USB port. Do y'all want me to sync this? Where'd they go?
Miss King?
Miss King.
Do you
For
want
the
to
wireless.
sync the wireless foot pad?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
I
that.
think they synced it.
Did they?
I think they're
It's
all
still-
synced. Aren't they all synced? Yeah.
It's fully charged. You want me to unplug it?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
I didn't know those existed.
We only have one.
We have five, I
Yeah,
think.
we've got more than one.
Oh, that's
They
good.
are
Oh,
amazing.
that's the same, right?
Amazing.
That's dope.
But they, you know, you have to kind of
Them
watch
what
the foot pedal.
Miss Guillory was putting up, that she sent that picture of me.
Oh, you
Oh,
can take the
I know what you're
top
talking
one
about.
off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you want me to do that?
It's nice to come on Saturdays.
Well,
You get to look at
you don't
stuff
have to.
more.
I mean,
It's-
and I'm glad you
it's
know
off.
that.
But she said she's gonna be there at 11 if you
It
want
has
to come.
cruise control. So you tap the rheostat and it cavitates until you tap it again. So if you really want to get chill, you don't even have to match the rheostat. But there is a learning curve because I was used to using my rheostat, and so I would forget to, I'd pull it out of the patient's mouth and water would go everywhere. So there is a little bit of a learning curve, but it is a nice feature. Where is it? Does anybody have a ballpoint pen? In there.
There's your hygiene students, of course.
Tea. It's a random thing. Yes. That's gonna be good though.
It would smell just like a cake.
Really?
Mhm.
I love taste for towels.
It don't taste as much as it smell, but
I wish I could sit down right there so I could. Yeah, she was smart.
So that unit that we had in the first operatory, that is our first bay. That's an analog Cavitron. This one is digital. So when you guys get to the point where you're using this is going to be less noise, less heat, and you might have to dial the power up just a smidge because this uses the energy differently. And the cord swivels there, and it's half the diameter of that guy, so a lot lighter. This is what
which one do they have for the boys? Is it the older one normally?
they do. It's a little select with the reservoir, and you can rent those from Dents Placerona when you guys get ready to take state boards at a discount. So contact me, and I'll get you guys.
Oh,
You
so
have
you
to
can
reserve it
practice
in
with
advance.
it?
Huh?
So you can practice with it or to take it with
Just to
you?
take it with you when you do them.
Oh.
So you can use what you used
It's a
to?
little select with a reservoir. It's a self-contained water, but it's still a Cavitron.
Oh,
So it
how
works just
cute.
the same.
So it's just like a travel.
It's just a portable version. All right, that is pretty much it on this one. These are super easy. We'll go over some other power settings and stuff like that at a later time when you guys have had more ultrasonic experience. But that's basically it for the maintenance. Just make sure you lock the screen on this one and check the water filters. Those are the two main things. Yes, ma'am.
Why does this one not have a powder supply?
This one is a
question.
Cavitron only.
Mm.
Yep. This is not the combo unit. This is just the Cavitron only, and that one's the Jet Plus, which is both.
Okay.
Good question.
So it is just preference. You can still get like an additional, like another PrepuJet single freestanding.
Another question is, like, I know you said you go over the power settings at a later time, but like, what do you normally put your setting on?
I start at 50,
Okay.
and this one has a 50, but like the dial on like that particular one, 12 o'clock straight up and down is medium. It has that blue zone, but that is just, that is not even up to medium, so you can go up to medium. I never have had to put any ultrasonic unit I've ever used on high, but I would say start at 50% or medium and then just go from there.
Okay.
You also will have a boost mode, like when you press the foot pedal the first time, it's normal. And then when you press it down again, you get a 20% increase of power when you're on a tenacious piece of calculus until you let your foot off again. And then you press it again and it'll be back to normal, but it's like nitrous.
Nitrous, the NO2.
Oh, okay. So, okay. Because I know I had asked the girl that I observed what she kept it on, and she was like, I really don't know what to put it on. I always just keep it on 70. So
She got it on jackhammer.
70, and then she clicks it again, then it's on really on 90. Oh,
Jackhammer mode.
Fast it goes.
100.
100.
We might need for you to come talk to us.
Yeah.
Giving them a
But,
refresher.
50, I would say, is a good starting point, and then just dial it down. And you can also write this number down. That's what's good about this unit. If the patient prefers a certain power setting, you've got a numerical value. You can say, hey, she likes 45 or 60, or that's what it took. She may not like it, but that's what it took to address her.
And that would be good for, like, if, say, like if I saw a patient one day, like in the real world, and then I wasn't there, and then she got put on the schedule, Malik could go back and look and not have to like figure out which one worked.
Do you start at 50 for a perio patient, or do you start less? Like depending on their.
I start the same for everyone, and
Okay.
then depending on the because sometimes it's gonna calculus differs in consistency, and if it's adhered to enamel versus cementum is porous. It's much more difficult to remove. So once you get going in the mouth, that's what I was talking about. It's important to be able to reach that power setting and change it, because you'll have to change it at different points during your procedure. Does that make sense? I mean, sometimes you'll look in a mouth and it will just look like they have slight calculus, and then you get going and it's like, holy cow, it's black and it's been there forever, and it just is really, really bonded with the tooth, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
So it's going to take more power, and you may even have to change inserts. That's why when she was asking, the hygienist that she assisted, they just always wanted those 1-2 inserts. Well, every mouth that you work on is going to differ greatly. Someone might have just a little bit of or nothing evident in the anterior portion, but they might have a subgingival spur that a hygienist omitted that had been there for years, and you might have to get out your left and right to address that. So there's no set recipe. It's going to be what that particular patient's mouth indicates. Does that make sense? And it's okay to open up 2 or 3 or 4 different inserts if they have conditions in their mouth that indicate the use of another insert. I know it's going to be more reprocessing time, but we're trying to accommodate, whatever their mouth presents, so it may take more than one.
How often do, like, I guess on average, offices order like new tips? Like, is it like a
That
fuss to
is the
get them?
$1,000,000 question, my dear. I got to ask that question
Like doing it, or?
By this gentleman back here. So what I would say to that is, and that's a good question, and I'm not going to get off topic here for very long, but when you guys are interviewing for a job, it is important to ask that question. Am I going to be, what are budget restraints, or what is allowable for different products or equipment that we need to use to perform our job? Because it is very important. I go in offices a lot of the times, and the hygiene office is not something where they spend a lot of time, and this varies with each different clinician. I was very fortunate. The doctors that I worked for my entire career, they let me get whatever I needed to do my job. So I was able to get inserts as needed when they wore out, equipment replaced, but that is not always the case. There are some offices that have very strict budgets for what they can order and limits on that, and you, so I would say that is probably a question that you need to add to your list when you're interviewing.
Or another situation like what at one of my offices, the dentist has all this high dollar equipment, and we ordered this CBCT pan and all this, and then you say that you need new inserts, and he's like, well, that's gonna have to wait. We don't have that in the budget or whatever right now, you know, whereas, so it's almost, so sometimes, you know, it's, so that's why, I think it was you I was telling, guys, those cards that she gave y'all, keep that so that you can show your dentist, because that kind of helped us. We actually had a card, and so some of the hygienists was like, you know, look, this is not, you know, helping us. I mean, it's not really doing the patient any good.
And
times longer
yeah.
and
I go in offices all over the southeast every day, and hygienists are just, you know, they're just like, oh my gosh, we need inserts so badly, but they're just not going to get them for us. And I'm like, okay, this is what you need to do. Just like what she said, we are dental health care professionals. The patients spend 90% of their time in the hygiene op with us. That's where all treatment begins for the most part, except for trauma and emergencies. We are the face and voice of that practice. That's where their first experience is. It's highly important that we have the latest technology and the best available. But you are intelligent enough, every single one of you, get a business plan. Say, this is how much this costs, do your homework, this is why I need this is how much it's going to diminish the amount of time it takes for me to see my patients, and present it in an intelligent manner. And if you've done your, if you've done your homework, and it's almost like a return on their investment kind of conversation, if you will. But if you've done your homework and you've put the time into it, and you just say, hey, I've got something I want to discuss with you. I know this will benefit us. When can we sit down and chat about this? And just set some side of time, and they're going to respect you, because they're going to be like, wow, this is important to him or her because they put the time into this. And you'll be surprised just asking the question. A lot of times you're going to get a yes, but most hygienists just assume, oh, they're not going to let me, and they never even ask for things they need. So don't ever fall into that trap, because what's the worst case scenario? They tell us no,
Say no.
but they might tell us yes, and then we're going to be like,
Get with your rep, your supplier, sometimes they have specials.
Yeah.
Buy two, get one free.
yeah.
And that's huge.
yep, absolutely. And that's where, you know, someone like me, that's my job, is to support product and equipment and provide education. You don't buy anything from me, you buy it from whomever the office orders from. But I know all the promos that are specific to Cavitron inserts and NuPro and Orikix and everything else hygiene. And so a lot of times I get pushed, they're like, will you tell him for me?
Yeah.
And I'm happy to do that, because it's a little different with me, because I am a clinician and I am a hygienist. So I can say, look, you know, and what I usually say is a conversation about getting a hygienist new inserts. It's like the doctor using a dull burr.
Yeah.
Well, they would never do that. I'm like, this is like asking you to use a dull burr. We can't perform this comfortably for the patients, and you start that conversation that way. But that is important to ask before you take a job, because, you know, I mean, and budgets are a real thing. We all live with those in our personal lives, and we need to respect them. But most of the time, if we have a good backstory, we're going to get a yes. So, well,
Those
that
cards
is,
are very beneficial.
huh?
The cards
Yes.
that show like when the tips get low is very beneficial.
And when they become inserviceable, that's why I do trade-ins all the time, because when doctors go in operatories and they see an arsenal of bad inserviceable inserts, but they still see them in the drawer, they think, oh, they got plenty. So we want to get those out of rotation, and we don't want to put our patients at risk either for safety reasons. So you want to stay on top of it and make sure whatever inserts you have, that they're serviceable, or if they're in your drawer, they are ready to be used. And like she said, get that card and show them, this is what I'm trying to clean teeth with. This is not getting the job done, and here's why.
What do you do with the old ones that's not, like, that you can't use anymore?
We
I know
do
they got, like,
trade-ins.
a biohazard like waistbands, but like, where do you put them?
Well, the rep will pick them up.
Okay.
Yep, we'll do a trade-in and pick them up.
Ms. King, because we had, I think, one or two here that the tip had broken off, I can't remember, but, so if we needed to do that, I mean, do we have to have like
Well,
a bulk of them, or?
You
is it-
guys get them as an institution.
Okay, so we
Yeah,
don't.
y'all
do
get them
that.
at almost half what normal people.
So we
So,
don't get that, okay, I was just like, I hate to throw this away, like, can we re-tip it or something?
no, they can't be re-tipped and they can't be repaired again for that safety. And those are still hand soldered in York, Pennsylvania, by the way, those stacks. I could not believe that was not an automated process, but it's not.
Replacement through this or through your,
It's the replacement, you can't replace the tips if they're
No, I
broken.
mean, you said turn in the old ones.
Oh yeah, you just call me or the Henry Schein or Patterson rep, they can pick them up or whomever you order from and give them to me and I'll send them to corporate.